Hello everyone, I'm Fabio Guillo, and this is my group's paper slide presentation about photosynthesis. Here we go. As we can see here, this drawn organelle is the chloroplast. Chloroplasts are organelles which are located in plant cells that capture energy from sunlight and turn it into chemical energy or food in the form of sugars. They do this via photosynthesis, which is split up into light-dependent and light-independent stages. The chloroplast itself is very complex and contains many things. For example, these stacks, which are granum or plural grana, which are just stacks of thylakoids. However, where the real magic happens, at least for the light-dependent section, so far, the light-independent reactions occur in the stroma. Again. Where the light-dependent stage occurs is in this little individual sac called a thylakoid. A thylakoid is a flattened sac that contains enzymes and the photosystems that require photosynthesis. Remember, these are photosystems required for photosynthesis. The thylakoid, specifically, as mentioned before, is where the light-dependent reactions occur. And the thylakoid is also where the pigment chlorophyll is contained. Chlorophyll is the main photosynthetic pigment of plants. It gains its iconic green color by absorbing red and blue light and reflecting green light. The reflected light is what our eyes see. Remember that. Chlorophyll is, of course, as previously mentioned, located in the thylakoid, and by extension the chloroplast of plants. Finally, the chloroplasts are where both light-dependent and independent stages occur. The light-dependent stages, or the stages of photosynthesis that directly require light, as seen up here, occur in the individual thylakoids themselves. The light-independent reactions, or reactions of photosynthesis that don't directly require light, just instead require the products of dependent reactions. Remember, light-independent reactions instead occur in the empty space outside of the granum and thylakoids of the chloroplast. This, basically empty fluid-filled section is called the stroma, which is essentially just the chloroplast's equivalent of the cell's cytoplasm. Moving on. This is a close-up of the thylakoid membrane. As you can see, it's pretty complex. So let's start from the beginning. First off, at the beginning is photosystem 2. The job of photosystem 2 is to energize electrons gained from broken down water molecules from the thylakoid space, which is this space down here, around here. Again, the job of photosystem 2 is to energize these electrons gained from broken down water molecules. Photosystem 2 does this by absorbing light energy from the sun. Then photosystem 2 sends these high energy electrons through the electron transport chain, where unfortunately, in their stages of movement, they lost some of their energy. So the job of the next photosystem, photosystem 1, is to absorb light energy, like photosystem 2, from the sun in order to this time re-energize these electrons, and then send them through a second, shorter electron transport chain outside into the stroma of the chloroplast. These high-energy electrons will then be used by the electron carrier NADP+, alongside positive hydrogen ions to form NADPH, which is an energy source that will be used in the light-independent stages, but that'll have to wait for now. Finally, what's this big enzyme right here that sticks out of the thylakoid membrane like some big crater, like some big boulder or something, or like a big stalagmite or something? This enzyme is called ATP synthase, which, as the name says, is the enzyme which synthesizes ATP. However, the way it does this is a bit strange. Think of it like a dam rotor. The positive hydrogen ions move from the thylakoid space in a one-way direction outside into the stroma. When these positive hydrogen ions move out of the thylakoid space through the ATP synthase, they generate energy. This energy is what causes the ATP synthase to move or rotate. This rotation that was energized by the hydrogen ions moving through it through the ATP synthase. This rotation is what results in ATP synthase binding ADP, not ATP, ADP, to an additional non-functional phosphate group to then form ATP, which is the complete product. ATP, like NADPH, is used as an energy currency that is very, very important in light-independent reactions, but that'll have to wait. Again, like just mentioned, this is a slightly more detailed way in the way ATP synthase forms from ATP to ADP. Essentially, the function of ATP synthase is to synthesize ATP from ADP and from an inorganic phosphate. So the job of ATP synthase is just to bind ADP and an additional phosphate group to form ATP. Yeah. Essentially, the way it forms this is, as previously mentioned, a hydrogen ion moves through it. A positive hydrogen proton moves through the ATP synthase, and this causes the ATP synthase to rotate. This generates energy, like a dam turbine, when water moves through it. This rotational energy, which was given from the hydrogen proton moving through it, is what gives the ATP synthase energy to bind the ADP and phosphate group together to form ATP, or the complete package. Now finally we'll move on to... oh, never mind, it's just NADPH. You remember those high energy electrons that went away from photosystem 1 and out into the stroma? Well, yeah, guess what? Those high energy electrons are picked up by NADP+, this electron carrier right here, alongside a positive hydrogen ion that is outside here in the stroma for some reason, some of which move out here through the ATP synthase. So yeah, this electron carrier, NADP+, grabs both these high energy electrons from the electron transport chain and a positive hydrogen ion and mixes them all up together and grabs all of them to form NADPH, the energy currency which alongside ATP will be used in light independent reactions, which I hope... oh yeah, it does come now. Alright. This is light independent reaction, or Calvin cycle, depending on what you want to call it. Essentially, you remember these two energy currencies, ATP and NADPH? Well yeah, there are 12 molecules of them. And they are from the light dependent reactions, which they are the products of. So yeah, these two energy currencies right here are the most important thing to allowing this entire cycle to occur, since, well, this cycle doesn't use light, it's a light independent reaction, so it has to get its energy from somewhere else. These two energy currencies, ATP and NADPH, are what give the Calvin cycle the energy it needs to convert CO2 alongside some remaining 5 carbon molecules together to eventually form sugars and other compounds. So again, now we know what the role of ATP and NADPH is, so now let's see the cycle itself. Well, essentially, we have CO2 enter the cycle through stomata, which are tiny pores on the leaf, which allow it to enter the leaf itself. This CO2 from the atmosphere then enters the chloroplast, yada 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 yada, and then enters the stroma of the chloroplast, which is where light independent reaction occurs. This CO2 from the atmosphere then mixes with some remaining 5 carbon molecules which are left over after the previous rotation of the cycle. These 6 5 carbon molecules and these 6 CO2 molecules will combine and at the same time be broken apart to form 12 3 carbon molecules. Two of these 12 3 carbon molecules are eventually discarded to be used to form sugars and other compounds, like lipids for example. These 10 3 carbon compounds then are fused together with the help of these energizers right here to eventually form 6 5 carbon molecules, which, well, eventually combined with 6 CO2 molecules to form, well, to restart the cycle all over again. Again, remember, these energy carriers are what the cycle needs to even happen in the first place, since it doesn't use light. However, unfortunately, this cycle requires, well, this cycle requires some of the energy of ATP and NADPH to be used, which results in them converting back into ADP and NADP plus respectively. Yeah, you see, now you're seeing what's happening here? Just like photosynthesis and cellular respiration, the products of one are the reactants of the other. Look at this chart. The products of light-dependent reactions, which are NADPH and ATP, are used or are the reactants that light-independent reactions need to form its own products, which are ADP and NADP+, which just so happen to be the reactants of the light-dependent reactions. You see? You see? Alright, so now let's see what's up next. Oh, look at that. This is a graph of the chloroplast. Yeah, for all of you that just want to see a slightly more complex version of what the chloroplast looks like, here it is. Here's a bunch of stuff. The purple stuff is the chloroplast DNA. Here's some other things. The blue things are ribosomes. These are some of the reactants and some of the products of both cycles. Here is the granum, the thylakoid membrane, and the inside of the thylakoid membrane, which I forgot to mention is dubbed the lumen. Remember, you can see all of the products and everything of both cycles. And just so you all remember, what connects the grana together is a little tube called the stroma lamellae. And finally, the insides of thylakoids, i.e. what thylakoids are made up of, are called lumen, which are what make up the thylakoid space. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic day.